What is up, everyone? Welcome to a brand new series. I wanted to do something really special on the channel over the festive period because normally over Christmas my videos slow down a little bit and we don't really do anything that fun. So what I really wanted to do is completely flip that round the other way, do something incredibly fun over Christmas, because it's this year I'll have the time to do it over Christmas, whereas previous years I've been busy over Christmas, but this year it's kind of the other way around. So this time around, for an awesome video series, or at least awesome in my eyes, and I hope you guys agree, we are going to be putting together what I am calling, bearing in mind this is what I am calling it, the world's fastest G3. Now, I've owned this machine since August of 2010, and over those years, it is now 2016 in case you're watching this in the future. Over those years, we've done various upgrades, we've added all sorts to it, we've done loads of videos, so if you guys are interested, go onto my channel and search PowerMac G3 or just G3 or whatever, and you'll find all these videos that I've done on this system. But what we're going to do is sort of in this video series pretend that none of that has ever happened. We're going to roll the system right back to almost factory specifications. We're going to bench it up, see what it can do, because surprisingly I started adding upgrades straight away, so I've not really used a G3 in its sort of factory configuration, or at least a PowerMac G3 like this. We're going to bench it up, we're going to use it, then we are going to upgrade it to the gills, we are going to flood it full of awesome components, and we're going to bench it again and see what it's going to do. And at the end of it, I do believe that we will have the world's fastest G3, or at least the fastest G3 blue and white that has ever been sort of logged on YouTube, or maybe anywhere online. I'm not too sure, I haven't really done loads of research, but for the purposes of this project, we are calling this the world's fastest G3. So without further ado, sit back, strap in. This is going to be a multi-part PowerPC extravaganza. I hope you all enjoy. Thank you very much. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of upgrading this machine and, well, downgrading this machine and doing all the benchmarking and really sinking our teeth into this project, let's just have a tiny chat about the PowerMac G3 blue and white. I'm going to dig into the dusty corners of my brain and try and remember some facts about this system. So, this was introduced in January of 1999 and discontinued in August of that same year, 1999. So it had quite a short run, but it left its legacy because the next machines were pretty much exactly the same. They had G4s in them and they went with a slightly different case design. This lovely G3 that you see here, that did not continue for the G4s, unfortunately. Personally, I think this is awesome. I think that looks wicked. I would love to have that on the side of the G4s. That is brilliant, and I personally much prefer the blue and white design over the graphite designs of the first few revisions of the PowerMac G4. I think this case looks a lot cooler, but despite that, you can still quite easily find G3 blue and whites. They must have sold quite a few of them. There are a couple of different revisions. They range in processor speeds and configurations for certain markets in certain countries, all the way from 300 megahertz. They go up in 50 megahertz between 300 megahertz and 450 megahertz. So you can get 350, 400. This is a 400 megahertz revision B, I believe. So a very nice machine. But more interestingly than all of that, let's get on to a tiny bit of history and a few cool things that I'm going to point out about this machine. Because let's face it, this machine is not exactly spoken about. When you go back and look at Apple history and you watch the documentaries and you read the books, everyone talks about the iMac G3 and how it was groundbreaking and changed everything and whatnot. And that is totally fair enough. It did. That is a awesome bit of history. But this has its place to be spoken about as well, in my opinion, because the iMac G3, it did all of that awesome stuff and it brought Apple back from the dead, but it did it for the consumer market. And Apple had quite a strong professional sort of following at the time, and over the early part of the noughties, in that PowerPC era, a lot of professionals were using Macs. So this machine represented an incredible change in the professional market, because just like the iMac with all of its controversy, this machine did the exact same thing for the pro market. What do I mean by that? Well, this machine was the first one to introduce USB and Firewire into the pro market, which is awesome. But more interestingly, this was the first machine to ditch floppy serial ports and SCSI. No onboard SCSI. They did put an ADB port on the motherboard, as you guys can see right there. There's one of those. But as far as SCSI is concerned, they totally ditched that and the floppy drive as well. But a difference between Apple then and Apple now: they ditched those things but gave you an option to add them back if you so desired. SCSI cards were an incredibly popular option for these machines at the time, and they were a BTO option directly from Apple themselves, so they didn't leave you in the dark like they do now. But because they built the Firewire and USB on board with this system, that was sort of the driving force behind moving those newer interfaces forward and getting more peripherals made for them and getting more people interested in them, because they were far superior. So people had the best of both worlds, unlike now where you're just forced to upgrade to the new stuff and you're not really 100% sure why, because you can't use them simultaneously. But anyway, whatever. This is really cool because it represents the iMac shift in the professional market for those reasons. And before I bore you guys, because this is almost a 5-minute clip already, I've got a really interesting little bit of information that you guys might want to hear. At the time, this case design was obviously revolutionary, and when it was being made, it had a code name. It was an all new easy open case design, which was actually codenamed El Capitan. So take that for what you will. It is now a version of Mac OS, and I just think that is incredible. The stuff that, you know, nobody remembers. It was a code name for a computer case of an ancient PowerMac. Nobody's going to remember that, so we're just going to use that for the name of one of our operating systems, which I think is cool. Codenamed El Capitan. I really like that little fact. But anyway, that's it for my deep, dark, dusty history of this machine. I think it's cool. It doesn't get enough representation, I don't think. This is the first new age professional machine from Apple that introduces all of that groovy stuff. And yeah, let's dig right into it and see what happens. Okay, folks, let's take a look. Let's open her up and see what's happening on the inside. Now, we're not going to boot her up. I have no idea what state we left this machine in after doing the various upgrades and the various videos. Let's get some more light on the scenario. But wow, that is the inside of the PowerMac G3. Let's take a quick tour. Look at this, guys. This is just a thing of beauty. A little bit messy at the moment, I know. Stuff left over from previous projects, but it's still a lovely, lovely looking machine inside. So a quick rundown of everything. Down here, we've got 4 slots with space for just normal PC 100 SD RAM. But the cool thing is, you can put 256 megs in each slot, so you can actually get a maximum of 1 gigabyte out of this machine, which is really, really nice. It sounds like nothing by today's standards, but certainly really nice for a machine of this age. Next up over here, we've got our CPU underneath this tiny, tiny heatsink. Here's your average size screwdriver for a size comparison. That is crazy by today's standards, but things were very different back then. So under here, we've got our lovely 400 megahertz PowerPC G3, something very exciting coming up in the pipeline there, by the way, folks. Next up, we have the slot area, or the expansion area. Obviously, this is pre-AGP, so our video card is sitting in its own dedicated high-speed PCI slot. This is a PCI 66 megahertz slot, whereas the other 3 that this machine has are PCI 33 megahertz slots. However, they are full-length 64-bit slots, so if anyone had cards back in the day that could take advantage of that, then you could plug them in the full-length slot. I personally have never owned any cards this size for these machines, which is a shame, but yeah, obviously you get the quicker 66 megahertz slot for the GPU, because that needs a nice lot of speed to push those pixels.
Next up, we have got the IDE connectors. So this one going underneath the motherboard and coming out over here and going under there and up to the optical drive is for the optical drive. This, I believe, is just a standard EIDE ATA Rev 3 connector for the optical drive, which is plenty for an optical drive, especially for that time. And then this one for the hard drives is the very fancy Ultra IDE 33, I think. So that's ATA Rev 4, ATA Revision 4. Gorgeous for the hard drives. Obviously 2 drives per connector, and you get 1 connector on this board. There is additional space within the machine for more drives, but you'd have to put expansion cards in, so a SCSI expansion for SCSI drives or an ATA card for ATA drives, and so on and so forth. But you got a standard double caddy with the machine as standard with 1 drive in it, and obviously you could support drives off the board in the lovely Ultra ATA 33 connectivity. Coming up, we've got the case fan. We've also got space for the zip drive, because that was a thing at the time. When I got this machine, there was a hard drive in this section running incredibly slowly off the optical drive bus. Obviously this one ATA Rev 3, so noticeably slower than ATA Rev 4. But yeah, that's the zip drive, and then this is the optical drive, which we won't really be touching in this series unless it gives us problems. I believe there's a DVR 104 in there, or 105, something like that. Nice Pioneer drive, if memory serves me correctly anyway. If not, if it's a rubbish drive, we'll find a nice drive to put in it. And then finally, this is the power supply, and something worth noting about the power supply is you've got IEC out as well as IEC in, which is something of the time, really cool, to power your CRT monitor, or if you were lucky to have a flat panel monitor, which you probably weren't. If it ran on IEC, then you could power that. But I believe the first Apple flat panels ran off the pre-ADC ones, the ones that had VGA. I believe they used a transformer, but don't quote me on that. Yeah, so IC output, very handy for your monitor, pretty cool, something that you used to get on your power supplies back in the day all the time, but you don't get at all these days. Quickly going over the connectors, we've got, of course, the brand new, very flashy and fancy Firewire 400, 2 of those, absolutely awesome. Fantastic demonstration of Firewire 400 on the PowerMac G3 introduction by Steve Jobs. Brilliant keynote, I recommend you check it out if you're interested in this sort of stuff. ADB connector. This was for the old Apple keyboard and mouse and a few random little ADB accessories. It was nice that they still included this. This was when Apple still had a little bit of sanity. This is a 10100 based Ethernet port. We have 2 USB 1.1 connectors, very new and very awesome at the time, but slow as all holy hell these days. And we've got audio in and out. This is the cutout for the 56k dial-up modem, which is not installed in this machine, and over here we've got the back of our expansion stuff, of course. So folks, wonderful machine, absolutely wonderful, and in this video we are gonna do so much, or in this series we're gonna do so much, so why don't I just get on with it then. So everyone, I'm gonna take out everything that I've put in case you didn't understand my intro, in case I was a little bit overexcited. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to get a base reading of the G3 before any upgrades. So while this may seem a little backwards, because we spent a lot of time and effort putting all of this stuff in, I assure you there is nothing to worry about. We are going to be putting loads of lovely stuff back into this system. We just need to get the almost factory specification benchmarks from this system, because as I said, I started upgrading it straight away, so I don't really know what the machine can do without upgrades. And ooh, that was a bit nasty, a little bit stiff in there. So that is all of the expansion cards removed. We are going to remove 3 lots of 256 meg of RAM, so that leaves us with 256 megs. Now that is not the factory default. You could BTO 256 megs, but this machine was much more likely to come with probably 64 megs or 128 megs of RAM, but that's okay. We need 256 because this whole project is going to be based around 10.4 Tiger, and the reason that we've got to use Tiger is because we need certain applications for the newer hardware that we're putting in. So Tiger, it has got to be, but that's okay. Plus I don't actually have any other sticks of RAM that we can put in that would make it any less. This was one of the SATA drives that we put in an upgrade. This is an 80 gig SATA drive. It is extraordinary how much quicker an old PowerPC Mac performs when you upgrade to SATA. It is absolutely unbelievable. But of course, one of the only ways to do that, or one of the only machines you can actually do that in, is these old PowerMac towers. You can't really do it in any other machines because there isn't enough space to add the card and the cables and things. So if you really want to tinker with these machines, that's why I've always loved tinkering with these. One of many reasons is because they are so easy to tinker with because of all of the expansion that is available to you. These are two 20 gigabyte drives. One has Tiger on it and one has OS 9 on it. Not sure which one is which, so we will have to figure that out in a moment. I'll have to use my brain. But there we have it, a fully stripped PowerMac G3, which is pretty cool. So now we are ditching this drive. We do not need it for this upgrade. It was very cool at the time to play around with this, but we are going quite a bit bigger and quite a bit better with the next upgrade. And I actually put 3 screws in this one. Pretty good by my standards. This can go to the side for a rainy day. Let's take a look at these two drives. I believe the top one could be Tiger, but at this point I am only guessing. I'm going to have to see both drives to hazard a guess. So let's see if I can remember. Right, yes, this one should have Tiger on it, I think. So let's take out this old Samsung. I believe this old Samsung has OS 9 on it. I hope I'm correct, but if not, it makes no big deal because we can just swap them back in. And I am eager to boot this machine and see what it does. When taking the last screw out, of course, it's important to hold the drive to stop it falling to its death. It is so nice to work with these lovely brackets and everything again. I just love the design of all things these PowerMacs have to offer. They are just fantastic. So there is our presumed OS 9 drive. Let's slide in our presumed OS 10 drive and screw her in. So that is our OS 10 drive screwed back into the bracket. Let's save these 4 screws for screwing the other drive on later on. We will see what we have planned for that. Okay, now it's time to start putting stuff back in. Starting with the hard drive, let's get this out of the way. One quick tip for anyone who might be fiddling in one of these machines: it's always cool to do the Molex power before you put the drive bracket down, because it can get quite awkward trying to push it past the little metal tab over here if you've got quite clumsy big thumbs and fingers. So that's that in, and then we have a screw that can be quite a pain in the arse. I've had screws that really struggle to get screwed in this particular portion. Let's see if this PowerMac is one of them. No, this one's not too bad. It's not brilliant, it's not exactly catching, but that's okay. Here we have the IDE cable for the drive. We're plugging in one drive today. One thing I haven't done is check the jumper settings, but hopefully it'll be okay. So we have a drive in place, an OS 10 drive. We've got 256 megs of RAM in place. We're only missing one thing for this machine to boot, and that is a video card. So to get an accurate representation of what this machine can do, let's put in the almighty ATI Rage 128 Ultra. Is it the Ultra? Or is it just the normal ATI Rage 128? Oh, by the way, folks, do not assume that 128 refers to the amount of VRAM it has. This little beauty has 16 megs of VRAM, which is awesome for the... Oh, does it have 8? Hang on a second. My history is a bit rusty. I was correct, folks. 16 meg. And this is not the Ultra. It's the Rage 128... ATI Rage 128 GL, I believe that's the full name, but it's just the Rage 128. 16 megs. Lovely bit of kit. could do one hell of a lot for the time. This was a big talking point when these machines came around. So let's screw this in, and this gives us our lovely factory settings, graphics to go with our benchmarks. So there it is, guys. It's as if those videos never happened. We've got our 20 gig hard drive, which was a lot for the time. These came with like 6 or 8 gig drives, even though you could spec them up pretty high for the time. Rage 128, 256 megs of RAM. We should have Tiger on that drive. So without further ado, let's finally try and boot up this machine. I'm going to find myself some cables. I don't have my test monitor fully hooked up properly yet. I haven't really finished my test bench setup at all, but let's just go for it and see what this machine does. Awesome. So here we are, all set up, everyone. We have got the graphite keyboard. We've got this lovely compact mouse, which still has some plastic on it, and also something that I've done to demonstrate the coolness of the IEC output is I've actually fed the monitor with the IEC output, because I found one of these before I found a second kettle lead, and as you can see, the monitor is getting power just fine. Of course, this is the Rage 128, so we're using VGA for now. We've got network plugged in as well as USB for the keyboard. Let's boot her up in 3, 2, 1, go. That was a very quiet bong. It was there. That's okay. I think I chose the right drive because the OS 9 drive used to make hell of a racket. Oh no. Okay. That makes more sense. The Samsung drive, wherever it is here, is louder. This is quite quiet, but I've got an old version of OS 10 on here. I forgot that I was messing around with all of these old versions of OS 10. I'm going to have to install Tiger on here with this really slow drive. Ah, that's okay. We get a bonus Tiger install. I've got the time to do it today. Oh, this video just keeps getting better and better, folks. I am loving this machine. Oh, we've got an ancient version of OS 10. Let's take a look about this Mac. Version 10.1.4, my word, it's going to be a shame to erase this, but we can always play around with this stuff in the future. I forgot I was messing around with all this, folks. I genuinely forgot. There was a time where I was going to put a load of drives in here and do some partitioning and things and try and get every version of OS 10 up to Tiger installed on this one machine. Maybe I could do that in the future, who knows. But for this project, we are going to... What are we going to do? We're going to insert a Tiger disc. Do I have a Tiger disc here? Guys, I do have Tiger, but I have the CD version because I burnt this ready for an iBook video that I've got coming up in the new year. And the iBook's got a CD drive, so looks like we'll be installing the CD version. Thank God for that, folks. My burn actually works. At least it does for the first disc, so that's okay. Let's restart and see how far we get. Oh no, what's my password? Well, folks, I can't remember my password, so we're going to have to do this manually. That's okay, I don't mind. Restart. And let's hope this thing boots from the drive. It has been fussy in the past. But that's okay, that's all part of the fun. Booting back into the hard drive, folks. I remember with this machine, it is tough to get it to boot from a disk. That's okay. What we'll do is we'll select the optical drive as the startup disk in system prefs and do a restart from there. Although that might require the password. Why haven't I done my normal password for this machine? Either that or there's something wrong with this keyboard. I'm not 100% sure what was going on there, unless I had a different password for this machine for a specific reason. But normally it's just the same password that I use for all of these Macs that I mess around with. Let's see what we can do with startup disk. It's not seeing the optical drive. That's weird. I got it, folks. I originally entered my password in caps lock for this install, so it's my normal password in capitals. That's okay. We are now restarting from the disk. Do not try this at home, guys. This is called fussy old computer refusing to do its thing. Oh wait, put the power in, Tom. Power in. Ah, I really have missed tinkering with these systems. Okay, so no drive connected, have some of that. Now let's boot from the disk, please. The disk is spinning up, good stuff. Find a question mark. You should find it any second, my friend. So I'm burning a Tiger DVD, just in case I need it. Well guys, it's not liking the DVD I just burnt, it is spitting it out. And yeah, I've never burnt an OS DVD with Toast 12 or Toast 11, whatever the version I've got now. I used to use Disk Utility, but Disk Utility is crippled these days. So this machine is hating this disk, which is not good. Not good at all. It's not even spinning it up really. In fact, it's not spinning it up at all. So if I can't get these CDs to work, I'm gonna have to put this on hold until I get my copy of Tiger. But I'm gonna give it a go for a little bit longer, see what it does. This is not the drive I thought I had in the machine. This is a Hitachi drive. It's got an Apple stamp on it, so it's been in an Apple machine at some point. It's come from Apple. Probably not this machine. I swear I had a different drive in here. This is a DVD reader, CD rewriter. I'm going to pop it back in. I've just changed the jumper from cable select to master to see if that makes any difference. If not, I hope I've got another optical drive in the drawer to try. But down here, I doubt it. I don't have all my computer parts. But let's see how far we get with this. Folks, check out the side of this. This has come out of a PowerMac G5. This came out of my single 1.8 gigahertz G5. I believe I had issues installing an OS with this drive on that G5. Not good, not good at all. I must have stolen the drive from this G3 at some point and put this in instead. And that is clear because I have hardly any screws, so I must have been in a rush. So yeah, definitely G5 label on the side here. Well guys, this thing is not booting and I don't have another optical drive down here, which is really annoying. I need to bring all of my parts down ASAP. So, looks like part one has been cut a little short. All we were going to do was make sure it booted and stuff anyway. So I'm going to fast forward to the most exciting part of this video, which is probably showing you guys all of the parts that is going to be going into this system within this series. So the system is not a happy bunny at the moment, but we will change that, of course. This drive, I remember this drive being very problematic. If you remember the video that I did installing Leopard on the G5 in the studio, that video was over an hour long because of problematic drives. So I'm going to get a bit of space and I'm going to show you guys everything that's going into this G3 in future parts. Starting off with memory, this is the memory that we took out. We have 768 megs of RAM. This is of course 3 256 meg sticks to go along with the existing 256 megs to bring it up to a gig. We have a 3-way Molex splitter to power all of the extra stuff that we're going to be putting into this machine. We've got the video card. This is the fastest video card, the best graphics card that you can put in a PowerMac G3 blue and white. This is the ATI Radeon 9200. This supports dual displays and also, as you can see, DVI, which is really cool. Super sweet card. This has 128 megs of VRAM, so much more powerful than the Rage 128. Coming over, we have got the USB card that we took out, USB 2.0, because this machine does not have built-in 2.0, obviously. Next up, we have the SATA card. This is one of the most crucial parts of any PowerMac Tower upgrade. This is the Sonnet version with 2 SATA connectors there. This is SATA Rev 1, so that's 1.5 gigabit a second, but still a huge upgrade and the best connectivity for internal drives that you can put in a PowerMac. Next up, we have 2 Maxter 250 gigabyte hard drives. They are identical. They are IDE drives. We're going to be putting them in this machine for some IDE goodness. That is going to be awesome. Cannot wait for that. I got these with my MDD and I've been dying to use them in a PowerMac project. They are going in RAID 0 for a 500 gigabyte speedy IDE disk. You may be thinking, Tom, there's a 128 gig limit on the G3. That's where this comes in. This is a PCI ATA controller. Not sure of the speed of this one, but that will become clear when we install it. Can't quite remember. But this allows me to connect 2 drives at a much quicker speed and higher capacity than the internal IDE bus. That of course fills our PCI slots 1, 2, 3, 4. But we're getting on to some awesome stuff now, folks. You may remember this SSD was donated to the channel. This Kingston 60 gig SSD, now V300. This went in the G3, worked fantastically with this card. So for this project, I decided to step it up a notch. I got another one. It arrived today and it allowed me to begin recording this series. I got another identical SSD off eBay, 20 quid. You can't go wrong. These two are going to be connected to the SATA card in, that's right, RAID 0 for the quickest boot disk possible on a G3. SSDs in RAID 0 on a G3. That's insane. To allow me to put them together physically as well as in the RAID, we have got this. As you guys can see, this will mount on one of the existing drive sleds, but it will allow me to have 2 2.5 inch drives screwed in nicely to the sides there. So that's where the SSDs will sit. These will sit in the existing dual drive bay, and these will sit next to it. I've got some SATA cables here for the SSDs. I may look out for some nicer ones, maybe some blue ones to match the theme, but these will do for now. I've got a very nice sleeved Molex to dual SATA power cable for the SSDs. That is very nice. And I've also got some really nice slim single rounded cable IDE cables for the hard drives. So I've got 2 of those, one for each drive coming off of this card. These look awesome. These weren't cheap, but they're going to look really nice and be really unique to the project. So they are all of the parts for this project, folks. But you may be thinking, hang on a second, Tom, you've done all of this before. You've upgraded the video card, you've put in a SATA card, you haven't done RAID 0 SSDs, but you've done a normal SSD, you've done IDE disks, you've done all of this. What's new? Well, folks, the breathing element, the heart, the core, the awesomeness of this project comes from a package that I have been searching for years. And that is no exaggeration. This package, this component, this part is what is going to allow me to create the world's fastest G3. And I'm going to show it to you guys right now. Here it is, folks. Coming over into frame. Here is the box. Let's open her up. And I cannot wait to show you what is lurking in here. There it is, folks. This is the G3 CPU upgrade card. More specifically, this is the PowerLogic's PowerForce ZIF 1.0. This is a 1 gigahertz G3 CPU upgrade card from PowerLogic's. Now, before you turn to your keyboards and start typing, yes, you can put a G4 CPU in a G3, and not just a normal G4 CPU from Apple. You can indeed put Sonnet G4 upgrade cards into a G3 blue and white and get lovely G4 speeds with iDVD support and Velocity Engine and all those things. But this is the world's fastest G3 project. That's why I'm sticking with a G3 CPU. This cost me one heck of a lot of money. It is a very, very rare piece. I got it all the way from America, and I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to someone. I found this on eBay US and contacted the seller, and he was sort of reluctant to ship it to me, and he didn't want to change his auction policy to allow bids from international eBayers. So I contacted one of my friends from the US. I contacted Todd, and I asked him if he would be able to ship the processor to me if I won the auction and he could maybe send it my way.
And before I could even refresh my inbox, basically, Todd got back to me and he said, Tom, I've gone ahead and I've bought that CPU on eBay. I think it was on a buy it now with a make an offer or something. I've bought the CPU on eBay, it's on its way, I will send it to you when I get it. So Todd, this is a shout out to you, buddy. You've supported me so much over the years, and without you, I could not have got my hands on this upgrade card, this G3 upgrade card. And I am just blown away. I am flabbergasted that I actually have it here in my possession. To give you an idea of how rare this is, I believe this was introduced in April of 2004 and discontinued in June of 2004. I believe it only had a 2 or 3 month production sort of window, and it was made to upgrade the G3 Blue and White. It is the fastest processor that you can put in a G3 Blue and White. As I said, you can put G4s in, but in terms of raw crunching, this is the fastest everyday performer, and I wanted it to be a G4. This is a G3. This is a 1 gigahertz G3. This is a colossal upgrade, folks. Absolutely colossal. And these parts, this CPU, but some of these other parts as well, are getting so difficult to find now. So this is the haul. This is the crazy amount of awesome stuff that we are going to be putting into this G3. So look at that. Just look at that crazy amount of gorgeousness there in the frame, folks. Absolutely wonderful array of parts. So I've put it back in the box, safe and sound. That is going to wait until a future part of this series. So let's burst the bubble for a second, get back to reality and chat about what's going to happen. So you guys have seen all the lovely parts, you've seen the system, we've reintroduced the G3, we've spoken a little bit about the history. Next step now is to get Tiger installed on the basic 20 gig IDE drive that's in there and get some numbers, get some benchmarks from the system in its almost factory state. This is part one. I don't know how many parts there are going to be because you never know what you're going to bump into with these old machines, but I hope you guys enjoy this festive period project. This is some awesome PowerPC goodness from me and my channel, IMNC. It's very good to be doing some of this stuff, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next part where we'll be getting those benchmarks and maybe, who knows, maybe sticking some of this stuff into the G3 and chatting more about our wonderful CPU upgrade and all of the other parts that we've got. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next part of the world's fastest PowerMac G3 series.